In 2025, Dream Theater are going to be 40 years old. If they were to phone you and say, "Do you want to come and do a live show as our 40th anniversary?" Is that something that you would do as a hired gun for a one-off show? I am joined by Mr. Mike Portnoy. Yes. How are you?
Good, man. How you doing?
I'm delicious. Thank you.
Delicious. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. I just wanted to give you an interesting answer. I figured that you'd be doing interviews all day, so let's give you something fun to work with. I was wondering if it would be okay with you if you and I could start this interview with a very quick game called This or That, where basically, Mike, it's a quick fire question round. You have to just explain which one of the two you prefer, and you don't have to give an answer why.
Okay.
It's fun. I promise.
Okay.
Okay, you ready?
I'm ready.
Kindred Spirits or Beating the Odds?
Beating the odds, only because it's newer.
What actual beat of the bar do you even come in on that? I've sat down and tried to work that out. I'm like, duh, 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 duh. Like, where does it even? It's so crazy.
Well, once the drums are there, like, you're hearing it with the drums there, but when we were working on it as just a riff, it was really, really weird to feel. We couldn't feel it for the longest time, but yeah.
Okay.
But now you're getting the benefit of the drums there to help lock it in. Yeah, but
that's true. That's true. In terms of album, 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence or Octavarium?
Ooh, 6 Degrees, because overall it's heavier.
Okay.
I love The Glass Prison and Great Debate.
Yeah.
I also love Disappear, which isn't heavy, but I love the production on that one. And of course, the title track was epic. So, yeah. If we're talking strictly albums,
yeah,
I think
albums.
6 Degrees.
Okay. In terms of tracks, Kaleidoscope or Into the Blue?
Into the Blue.
Okay.
Yeah, Into the Blue is, I think, one of my favorite Transatlantic songs, and that middle section with Daniel Gildenlow gives me goosebumps every time.
Yeah, man, it's awesome. Elevate or Xandu?
Are we talking the
Winery Dogs,
the U2 song and the Rush song?
No.
or the Winery Dogs songs?
The Winery Dogs.
Elevate. I think Elevate's real special just because it was like the world's introduction to the band.
Sure.
So yeah, it holds a special place in my heart.
Okay, penultimate question for you. From Avenged Sevenfold, Nightmare or Save Me?
Save Me, absolutely.
Great track.
Yeah,
Great
that was their Prague epic, and that was a fun one to record.
100%. Okay, your last one, and I'm going to judge you for this. Schmedley Wilcox or Instrumedley?
Instrumedley.
Yes!
Yeah. Because Instrumedley was, first of all, it's got more tracks in it. Schmedley Wilcox was just a medley, chunk, chunk. Whereas Instrumedley was very, very creatively put together, the way it weaves in and out of all different things. And yeah. So yeah, Instrumedley was surely one of the more fun things we've done in terms of medleys, for sure.
Instrumedley, I need to tell you something. Instrumedley actually changed my life. Now, I know that you meet people now, hey man, your music really changed my life, but genuinely, I'm one of those people whose music you changed their fucking life. I was on Drummer World when I was a teenager, and I didn't know who you were, and I accidentally clicked as a teenager on Mike Portnoy instead of Cozy Powell, and I was presented with the last 90 seconds of Instrumedley. The Hell's Kitchen and the tubular bells and the strings, and yeah, it was orgasmic. I'm not going to lie. It was from there. I went out and I bought every Dream Theater album that the songs were on from Instrumedley, and of course Liquid Tension. So that was a fantastic idea to get people to buy your albums if that wasn't what the thought was to do already.
Wow, amazing. Was it Instrumedley from Live at Budokan, or was it from the Modern Drummer Festival?
Modern Drummer.
Wow.
Yeah.
Where I was playing backwards with my back to the audience.
Yeah, that was random. What was your thought? Was that just so people could kind of see everything, I suppose?
Well, it was a drum festival. Well, first of all, the fun thing about that was before I brought the Dream Theater guys out, which was a surprise. I did a Beatles. That was the debut of Yellow Matter Custard, and I did that with Neil Morris and Paul Gilbert, and Matt Bissonette.
Mhm.
So, you know, I'm playing the Modern Drummer Festival where they expected me to have this 100-piece drum kit and doing all these crazy solos, but I came out with a Ringo kit playing Beatles songs. So that was kind of just for me, for my fun, you know, like that was just that, you know, just making my childhood dream come true. Selfishly, depriving an audience full of drummers with, you know, but then the surprise was we hit the final chord of A Day in the Life, and then the curtain comes up, and my kit comes, the massive Siamese monster comes out, and then, all right, surprise, you know, and I had John Jordan and John with me to play instrumentally. But the idea of spinning the kit around was, you know what, it's a drum festival. Every person in the audience is a drummer, so let's spin the riser the other way so they could like see what it's like behind that kit, you know, and give them all that point, that vantage point.
That was awesome. It was very, very cool. I really enjoyed that. I reckon I watched that in excess of about 16,000 times. I didn't leave the house that year, actually. I have to share something with you, quite personal, actually. Liquid Tension, and I know that we're going to talk about the Winery Dogs, but I have to, while I've got you here, I've got to share a story with you. Like you, I lost my dad in 2003. My dad was a drummer. And just after he got his diagnosis of a terminal illness, we spent the day sitting together, listening to records like Led Zeppelin, and randomly in his collection of CDs was Liquid Tension 2. And we looked at the sleeve together, and my dad, being a drummer, he said, "God, like, look at this guy's drum kit," and he hit play on Acid Rain. And therefore, you are part of one of my last ever memories of my own dad.
Wow.
which made me so happy as to when you released Liquid Tension 3, the emotional connection that I've got to that project of yours. It was such an overwhelming experience for me, and the record was great as well. So off the back of that, Liquid Tension live tour and Liquid Tension 4, please.
Yeah, I'd love both for sure. I guess it all depends on everybody's schedules. Tony is firing back up with Peter Gabriel, and I know he's going to be out with Peter Gabriel most of this year. And obviously, John and Jordan are out with Dream Theater, and I'm going to be out with the Winery Dogs. But yeah, I'm all up for shows and the fourth album. So, you know, just say when. You know, it's up to the
when. I'm saying it. I'm fucking saying it.
Well, yeah, you gotta talk to the other three guys, but I have.
I pester Jordan all the time for it.
We'll see. Fingers crossed it happens again.
We got to do
soon. Yeah.
The Winery Dogs, obviously, your new album is coming out on the 3rd, which by the time this goes out, it will actually be after the 3rd. So we'll just say it's out now. The Winery Dogs brand new album is out now. How do you think that this album stacks up to the previous two? What's different about this?
I think it falls somewhere between the first two. You know, the first one was really strong, I think, from top to bottom, just a classic album. Every song was a powerhouse. And then the second album was a little bit more experimental, tried a few different twists and turns. I think this third one kind of falls somewhere in between. It was purposely shorter. We purposely wanted to, you know, cap it with 10 songs this time around. So it's a little more concise. But yeah, also having had 7 years off, I think re-inspired us for sure. You know, we were able to get away, catch our breath, do the different things we do, and then coming back together just made it that much more exciting and special for us.
What makes the Winery Dogs different to any other project that you've ever worked on? Because you have worked with 64,922 different bands. What's different about this one, man?
I've said this before, but it's the truth. I mean, the Winery Dogs is pretty much the only thing I do that's not prog or metal. Everything else I do has its foot in one or the other or both, you know, either prog or metal, whereas the Winery Dogs is really not either of those. It's a whole different kind of animal. It's tapping more into, you know, the classic rock sound of the late 60s, early 70s, that kind of organic, like Zeppelin, Cream, Hendrix thing, you know, and you know, more so than any of the other things I do, this is really kind of rooted in that. Plus, it's a trio, you know, that's also different. And playing in a trio is a whole different kind of approach and sound and style. So we get to really fill out a lot of space with just the three of us.
But easier in the mixing room after, right? There's only three.
Everything is easier. There's more room in the dressing room, more room on the bus, more money for us to split. You know, everything's easier. Less people to argue with. Everything's easier with just three. And that's why all the greatest trios never really changed lineups. You know, Rush,
Muse,
the Police, Muse, King's X, Cream. You know, ZZ Top. It was always, when you look at these trios, they never changed lineups. You know, kind of once they locked in, they always stayed the same. You know.
Which project of yours that you have been in since the beginning of your career has been the biggest eye-opener for you? When have you kind of really sat down after working with a musician or an artist or a band and you kind of gone, oh shit, like that's great, or maybe I need to do more of this, maybe I need to do less of this? Like what artist has made you your most reflective?
Well, I mean, of course, Dream Theater, you know, that's where it began. And that was the first 25 years of my career. And, you know, it was my baby and something that was, you know, we spent so much time building and developing. So, yeah, of course, that's the obvious answer. And that's the most significant thing of my, you know, part of my legacy and career, of course. But obviously, I'd have to mention, you know, all the stuff I've done with Neil Morse as well. You know, Neil and I have done, I think, over 25 studio albums together at this point. I think well over 50 albums if you count live recordings. You know, we are, depending on how you count it, we're in anywhere between 3 to 6 different bands together. You know, Neil Morse Band, Transatlantic, Flying Colors. Then you also have Neil's solo albums, and then you also have mine, his, and Randy's cover to cover series. Then you have Yellow Matter Custard. So, you know, obviously the stuff that Neil and I have done together has had a huge, significant part of my entire discography and career.
I suppose then, with you talking about how many different bands you're in, how many different projects you're working on, it would lead me organically to ask this question. Mike, in your career, what has been the biggest Spinal Tap moment of your life?
Oh man. I mean, there's been so many, everything from falling off stages to not being able to find the stages, you know.
It's actually happened.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I remember also you know, I think Dream Theater was playing a gig somewhere in Texas in the 90s, and they rolled the intro tape for A Change of Seasons while we were still in the dressing room, you know, not even ready to leave for the stage. So yeah, things like that happen all the time. Yeah, absolutely. Everything you've seen in Spinal Tap has happened at one point or another to every musician out there.
Are you looking forward to Spinal Tap 2?
Oh man, I can't wait. Yeah.
Let's go together. I'll fly over.
I hope I live long enough to see it, though. You know,
fucking hell, this has got well depressing.
Well, every time I hear of a TV show or a movie that's announced, you know, 3 years in advance, it's like, oh God, now I just gotta hope I live to see it. You know, like when they announced the Twin Peaks return,
Christ.
But it was going to still be like 3 or 4 years before it's out. You know.
So, fucking hell, man. We were just talking about music, and now we're talking about your death. But you know, it's
the only thing in life that's certain.
Oh Jesus, this is terrible. What would your advice be, right? Because, well, let me rephrase that. We're living in a really fucking turbulent time for artists. We are, we're coming out of COVID. The emerging scene is still on its life support machine, and really, you know, big artists like yourself and the projects that you're in have been lucky that after, you know, a 2-year hiatus, you've had a business to come back to. You've had a stage to get back onto. But what would your advice be to an unsigned band or artist that was really struggling, Mike, to break the industry the way that you did back in the 80s?
Well, it's a very, very different time, and there's pros and cons. Obviously, the cons are that you really can't make money off of music anymore. Everything is out there and just streaming for free, and people expect to just get the music for free. Yeah. So that much has changed, you know, much differently from when we were coming up. That's the downside, but the good side is you know, these new bands, you don't need to have a record deal to get your music out there. You know, you have the ability to put it on YouTube or Instagram and, you know, use your social media to get it out there. And have your music heard all around the world,
Yeah.
without needing Rolling Stone magazine or MTV to embrace it the way that we did when we were coming up. So yeah,
Yes.
in that respect, I think artists and musicians have their independence. But I get worried for the amazing musicians and artists that aren't going to be able to make a living off of it financially and are going to throw in the towel a lot easier than they would have, many years ago. That's the part that scares me. People just not being able to make a living at it and just have no choice but to go get a job as an electrician or a teacher or whatever. And that's sad. But hopefully the musician's perseverance and dedication and focus and vision, can remain strong in these times. It's harder, not only streaming music, but also getting on the road. It's more and more expensive for bands to tour and make money at the shows. So luckily I'm in a position where here, I'm already 30 years plus into my career where financially I could do this. But that's the scary part for younger musicians that maybe can't handle the financial pressures and aren't able to pursue it to the length that maybe they would have had to have.
I think musicians are like water. You need musicians. You need water. They will always be here in some capacity. I guess just as you rightly say, it's how that's going to be consumed, how the business is going to be molded around a very very turbulent time in this kind of business. With regards to we have actually joked about your death, and that is something I didn't think we were going to do. But in 100 years, Mike, what would you like your legacy to be? How would you like people to remember you by? Are we talking like the big drum kits? Are we talking about the work you've done, the fact that you're a dad and a husband? Like, what is the thing that you would love people to remember you by? And how would you want to be remembered?
Well, dad and husband comes first, obviously. That's
that's the boring one. That's
yeah. But musically, I hope that the big picture, it's all about the discography and all the music I've made with all the different bands. That was important for me after leaving Dream Theater, was to have this discography and this career filled with so many different bands and albums and collaborations with other great musicians and artists that I respect and admire. It was always to me about the big picture and being more than just the drummer with the massive drum kit playing drums with Dream Theater. I wanted to have this legacy filled with all these different styles and all these different collaborations and all these different bands. So, and that work ethic, my work ethic is really important to me. Just constantly working on stuff and producing and creating. That's to me so important, to keep busy and keep focused and keep creative.
Where does it go next? Where does it go? You are, I think, probably, in my opinion, you are the greatest living drummer in the world. And that's 10 pounds, please. But gotta think of the cash. But no, seriously, I wholeheartedly don't think there is anybody as good as you and as iconic as you. But where you've done so much, where does it go next?
Well, I appreciate you saying that. I've said this a million times, and I think it's the honest to God truth. I don't think there's such thing as greatest or better than. I think it's all, music is subjective. So it's just a matter of what reaches you and touches you and appeals to you. But I mean, there's so many zillions of drummers out there that could play circles around me. I've seen like 8-year-old girls on Instagram that are playing the Dance of Eternity. So to me, it's not just about ability. To me, being a musician and an artist is so much more than just playing your instrument well. It's about how you utilize your instrument and how you're a creative artist. But anyway, I just wanted to say that I appreciate you saying that about me, and I really do appreciate that. But to me, it's all about the big picture and the whole package. But as far as where do I go, I don't know. I feel incredibly fulfilled to have done everything I have done up to this point. It's been an incredibly fulfilling career, And where do I go? I just want to keep doing it and just keep making music.
Do you feel like you're chasing your tail? Because you've done
Perhaps.
everything, like and I know from having watched documentaries on you in bands and things like that. I know that you are the sort of person that you'd be up until the early hours of the morning. If you had an idea in your head until that idea was finished, and you'd send it off to your band members. But that's why I guess I asked if you are honestly in that circle of chasing your tail.
Perhaps. I mean, when you make as many albums as I do, I think since Dream Theater, I've made something like 40 or 50 albums or something ridiculous like that. There's something to be said for keeping busy and keeping creative like that. But then there's also something to be said for, like you said, chasing your tail. Like, where do you go at this point? I just love playing. I love touring. I don't know. I would always welcome another kind of hired gun gig. I've really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Playing with Avenged Sevenfold or Twisted Sister and kind of just being the drummer only was very, very satisfying in a lot of respects, just going and playing the big shows. And so, yeah, I would welcome another scenario like that if the right band came around, Foo Fighters, Dave Grohl.
I fucking said this. I've said this to so many people. Like, I don't know if you're friends with him or whatever, but yeah, definitely, man. You've got to push for that.
I guess any gig like that, any kind of hired gun big gig, I really enjoyed doing that in the past. So yeah, that's something that I would definitely welcome in the future if the right one came around.
This leads me into a question that I have to ask you, and I'm going to ask this in the most respectful, polite, and lovely way possible. Talking about being hired, like a hired gun. In 2025, Dream Theater are going to be 40 years old. If they were to phone you and say, "Do you want to come and do a live show as our 40th anniversary?" Is that something that you would do as a hired gun for a one-off show, because for the 40th birthday, or is that something that you have now put to bed, which you have said many times before? But I wanted to ask.
Well, I would surely welcome the idea. Absolutely. And I've told the guys such, like, depending on the circumstances, obviously there's a lot of hypothetical circumstances. I don't know if I would necessarily want to be a hired gun for a band that I formed,
Sure.
So
I was trying to be diplomatic.
Right. I mean, it's a little bit of a strange term in that respect, but if you're asking, would I ever play with the guys again? Sure. If the right hypothetical situation came about, yeah, of course, I'm always open to that.
We would really like the Winery Dogs to come to the UK. I know that your tour starts very, very soon and people can get their tickets online. What can people expect from this very magnificent show that we can't wait for?
Well, we're looking forward to playing again. I mean, the Winery Dogs is just a great live band. It's like a 3-ring circus. And I think we have a few UK dates already announced for June. Nice. So we'll be there in June, and a few European festivals on that same run. But yeah, we've announced a handful of dates already for Europe and UK, and I think there's more to come, whether it be part of that summer run or maybe later in the year. So yeah, I mean, we're planning on being out on the road all year long.
Amazing. Yeah. Mike Portnoy, thank you so much for coming on. It's taken 417 Instagram comments, lots of text to Jordan Rudess to try and get you, but I really appreciate you coming on, and it's a huge fanboy moment for me as well, and I've tried to keep my cool. And thank you for sliding into my DMs on Instagram. That was
I aim to please, dude. You aim to please. That's a sign hanging in my bathroom. We aim to please. You aim to please.
We need to hang out. We'd have fun.